Hey, have you noticed the new girl? Jake's voice broke through the monotony of my lunch break. It was so typical of him, and honestly of every teenage guy at our school. It was like an automatic reflex. A new girl walks in, and the male population collectively loses its mind. I didn't even bother to glance up from my sandwich, which tasted as bland as it looked. Jake, on the other hand, seemed unusually excited. Dude, she's purple. Like, actually purple. That caught my attention. I raised an eyebrow and finally looked up. Purple? What? Did she have a bad run-in with grape juice or something? Jake shot me a dramatic eye roll. No, idiot. She's one of those alien exchange students from that planet we made contact with last year. You know, Nexus Prime, right? That, I muttered, only vaguely remembering the whole first contact event. Humans had adapted quickly to the idea of aliens living among us. The novelty had worn off pretty fast, especially with everything else high school threw at me. I was more focused on surviving each day without dying from social anxiety. Neat, I said with all the enthusiasm of someone commenting on a weather forecast. Jake wasn't letting me off that easily. He flicked me on the forehead, earning an annoyed yelp from me. Seriously? Neat? This is huge, man. Aliens. In school. I glared at him, rubbing the sore spot. What do you want me to do? Roll out the red carpet. You know me? I can barely talk to girls from our planet. What makes you think I'd be any smoother with an alien? His grin turned mischievous. Funny you should say that. I felt an ominous chill as Jake's gaze shifted behind me, and his grin grew wider. Hey, new girl, over here. Panic seized me. Oh no, 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 no. I wanted to disappear, to melt into my chair, anything to avoid what was coming. Hello, a cheerful voice with a slight accent sounded from behind me. I am Zarathal, an exchange student from Nexus Prime. May I join you for lunch? Jake, the trader, was beaming. Absolutely. Have a seat. I'm Jake, and this nervous wreck is Ethan. Slowly, painfully, I turned, and there she was. Standing before me was a girl, well, alien, who had skin that was a rich lavender hue, shimmering slightly under the cafeteria lights. Her hair, or at least what I assumed was her hair, was a collection of glowing tendrils that floated around her head. And her eyes, they were enormous and seemed to glow from within, taking up a good portion of her face. She was stunning. She also seemed to be waiting for me to say something. After an embarrassingly long silence, I managed to squeak out, "Hi." Zarathal smiled warmly, showing sharp teeth. "Hello, Ethan. Your face is turning quite red. Is this a typical human greeting?" Jake burst into laughter, nearly falling off his chair. "Nah, that's just Ethan. He turns into a tomato around girls, especially pretty ones. If embarrassment could kill, I'd be dead." I covered my face with my hands, wishing I could vanish. Zara tilted her head, her tendrils swaying. "Interesting. On my planet, changing colors is part of our mating rituals. Are you trying to court me?" "Ethan," I nearly choked on my own breath. No. I mean, not that you're not, My words tangled in my throat, and I wished for the ground to swallow me up. Zara blinked, then looked at Jake, confused. Did I make a social mistake? I am still learning Earth customs. I took a deep breath and pulled my hands away from my face. "No, you're fine. I'm just not good at talking to people, especially new people, especially people from other planets." Her expression softened. "Ah, I understand. Social awkwardness is not unique to your species. We have a saying on Nexus Prime, even the mightiest ship begins as scattered parts." I blinked in surprise. "That's actually really nice." Her smile brightened, and I swear she seemed to glow a little. "Thank you. I find that sharing wisdom helps us bond with other species." Jake, finally calming down from his laughing fit, leaned forward. "So, Zara, what brings you to Earth?" For a brief moment, her expression flickered with something I couldn't quite place. "Oh, just the usual. Cultural exchange. Learning your customs. Picking up some of your quaint human technology." She winked, and I couldn't help but chuckle. "Right? I'm sure you're totally impressed with our Earth gadgets." She gave a playful shrug. "You'd be surprised. We don't have pocket computers on Nexus Prime. All our devices are integrated into our neural networks. Much less fun, I assure you." I found myself relaxing for the first time. "What's your class schedule like? Maybe we share some classes." Zara pulled out a crumpled schedule. "Let's see. I have quantum physics next, then Earth history and gym." "Quantum physics?" I blinked. "We don't even offer that here." She froze for a second, then let out a nervous laugh. "Oh, silly me. I meant geometry." Jake and I exchanged looks, both of us sensing something off. But before we could ask, the lunch bell rang, and Zara jumped up like she had somewhere else to be. "Ooh, Oops, time's up. See you later. She hurried out of the cafeteria before either of us could stop her. Jake whistled. Well, that was interesting. I nodded, still staring after her. Yeah, interesting doesn't even begin to cover it. Weeks passed, filled with awkward moments and cultural misunderstandings, but Zara quickly became a part of our little group. Every lunch, every class project, she was there, and somehow I found myself crushing harder than ever. One day, we were in biology class dissecting frogs. Zara and I had been paired together, a blessing and a curse. I loved spending time with her, but I was constantly aware of how clumsy I felt in her presence. Ethan, Zara said, frowning slightly as she prodded the frog's organs. I believe I found the hepatic portal system. Could you hand me the forceps? Sure, I said, reaching for them, but in my haste, I knocked over a jar of preservative fluid. The liquid spilled across the table and all over Zara. I watched, horrified, as the fluid drenched her. Two thoughts hit me at once. One, I was the clumsiest person alive, and two, shouldn't she be in pain? That stuff was basically formaldehyde. It should have been burning her skin. But Zara just looked mildly inconvenienced. Oh dear, she said calmly, as though it was nothing more than a spilled drink. How unfortunate. Wait, aren't you in pain? That's toxic, I asked, confused. She blinked, then glanced down at her soaked lap. Oh right, yes. How terrible. It burns, she said in the most unconvincing tone ever. I squinted at her. You're not hurt, are you? For a split second, something flashed across her face. Was it fear? But then, her usual friendly smile returned. Why, Ethan, whatever do you mean? I'm in so much pain. I think I need to go to the nurse, like, right now. And with that, she darted out of the classroom, leaving me standing there, still covered in frog dissection remnants, utterly baffled. I turned to Jake, who had been watching the whole thing from the desk next to mine. Dude, I muttered, something is seriously off with Zara. Jake groaned, rolling his eyes. Oh, you mean aside from the fact that she's a purple-skinned alien who somehow finds your awkwardness cute? Yeah, totally normal, Sherlock. I shot him a glare. No, I'm serious. The preservative we used on the frog should have hurt her. She barely flinched. And have you noticed how she occasionally mentions stuff she shouldn't even know as an exchange student? Jake's expression softened slightly. Look, man, I know you've got a crush on her, and it's probably making you overthink things. She's an alien, dude. Maybe her species just has really tough skin. I shook my head. No, it's more than that. I can't explain it, but something's just not right. Jake sighed, clearly losing patience. Alright, if you're so convinced, why not just ask her? Hey Zara, by the way, are you some kind of alien super spy or something? He snickered. Little did I know, I wasn't far from the truth. A few days later, things finally came to a head. I was on my way home from school, still trying to piece together Zara's odd behavior, when I heard commotion coming from a nearby alley. Normally, I just keep walking. I'm not the heroic type, but something stopped me this time. Maybe it was curiosity or just the universe having a laugh at my expense. Either way, I found myself creeping toward the alley, my heart thumping in my chest. What I saw almost knocked me out cold. There, in the middle of the alley, was Zara, but she wasn't alone. She was surrounded by three figures, though I hesitate to call them men. Their eyes glowed red, and their skin shimmered like oil on water. But the real shock was Zara herself. Gone was the shy, awkward exchange student. In her place stood a warrior, her body tense, ready for action. In both hands, she gripped what looked like glowing purple energy blades. I'll say this one more time, Zara growled, her voice lower, more dangerous than I'd ever heard. Leave this planet or face the consequences. The largest of the creatures sneered, his voice like nails on glass. Oh, little princess, did you really think you could hide here among these primitive apes? What can I say? I'm a romantic at heart, I joked, as our laughter finally quieted. A comfortable silence settled between us. Zara was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite place, something warm and soft that made my pulse race. Ethan, she said quietly, I hope you realize that my being here puts you in danger. Those assassins, they'll come back, and they'll use anything they can against me. I nodded, suddenly feeling the weight of the situation. I get it. So what happens now? Do you have to leave? Zara bit her lip, looking conflicted. I should. It's the safest option for everyone. She hesitated, her gaze softening. But, I prodded gently, sensing there was more. She took a deep breath. But I don't want to. Ethan, these past few weeks, they've been the first time in my life that I've felt normal. You and Jake, you've accepted me, even with all my quirks. That means more to me than you know. My heart was pounding so loudly that I was sure she could hear it. Then stay, I blurted out, surprised by the intensity in my own voice. We'll figure something out. I mean, if you can handle alien assassins, I'm pretty sure we can handle high school together. She let out a laugh, but this time there was a hint of something something that sounded suspiciously like hope. You make it sound so easy, I shrugged, grinning. Hey, I'm just a simple Earth guy. It's kind of my thing. Zara shook her head, but she was smiling now. Alright, simple Earth guy, if we're going to do this, there are a few things you need to know. And just like that, my life shifted from being an awkward teenager with a crush to becoming the confidant and ally of an alien princess in hiding. It was terrifying, exhilarating, and completely insane, but I wouldn't have changed a thing. The next few months were a crash course in how to be friends with an alien princess while dodging intergalactic assassins 101. Zara, or Zara as she insisted on being called at school, did her best to keep up her cover as an ordinary exchange student. But now that I knew her secret, I started picking up on all the little things I'd missed before, like how she always seemed to know when a pop quiz was coming, even before the teacher announced it. Low-level psychic abilities, she explained with a shrug one day. It's useful for diplomatic negotiations and high school drama. Then there was the way she could solve complex math equations faster than I could punch them into my calculator. Our education system starts a little earlier than yours, like in the womb, she'd say with a smirk. But the biggest change was between us. Now that the truth was out, Zara relaxed around me. The shy, awkward persona she'd put on disappeared, revealing a sharp wit and a mischievous streak I hadn't seen before. One afternoon as we walked home, she grinned and said, "You know, I still can't believe humans haven't figured out faster than light travel yet. It's really not that hard." "Oh yeah," I shot back, rolling my eyes. "Why don't you enlighten me, Your Highness?" Her grin widened. "Well, first you need to understand that space-time is less like a fabric and more like a sponge." What followed was a 20-minute lecture on quantum physics that left my brain spinning. I understood maybe one word in 10, but I didn't care. Watching her light up, passionate and completely in her element, made my heart do somersaults. Of course, it wasn't all science lessons and witty banter. The threat of assassination was still very real, and Zara insisted on training me in basic self-defense. "I don't expect you to take on a Nexian battle droid," she said as we squared off in my backyard, "but you should at least know how to run away properly." I raised an eyebrow. "There's an improper way to run away?" Her grin was downright predatory. "Oh, absolutely. Let me show you." What followed was the most humiliating hour of my life. Zara moved like a purple blur, always 3 steps ahead of me. By the end, I was sweaty, bruised, and had face planted into the dirt more times than I could count. But I also learned how to break a chokehold, how to fall without breaking anything important, and how to use an attacker's momentum against them. "Not bad," Zara said, helping me up after our final bout. "You're still as graceful as a drunken Glornak, but at least now you might survive long enough for me to rescue you." I groaned, every muscle in my body protesting. "Gee, thanks. You really know how to make a guy feel special." Her expression softened, and she reached out to brush some dirt off my cheek. The touch sent a jolt of electricity through me. "You are special, Ethan. More than you know." And, because the universe clearly has a twisted sense of humor, that's when the robots attacked. It started with a low hum, like a swarm of giant, angry bees. Zara's head snapped up, eyes wide with alarm. "Get down," she yelled, tackling me to the ground just as a bolt of energy sizzled past where my head had been. I hit the grass with a thud, Zara's weight pressing me down. Normally, being this close to her might have short-circuited my brain, but adrenaline had other plans. "What the hell?" I gasped as she rolled off me, energy blades already forming in her hands. "Sentry drones," she growled, scanning the sky. "My uncle must be getting impatient." I followed her gaze and my stomach dropped. 3 metallic spheres hovered overhead, each about the size of a basketball. They didn't look like much until panels slid open, revealing some very nasty-looking weapons. "So, what's the plan?" I squeaked, my voice embarrassingly high-pitched. "We need to get to my ship," Zara said, her eyes darting around. "It's cloaked in the woods behind your house." I blinked. "You're what now?" But there was no time for explanations. The drones opened fire, energy bolts raining down. Zara moved faster than I could track, her blades deflecting each shot. "Run," she shouted. "I'll cover you." And so I ran, zigzagging across the backyard like a maniac. Zara stayed close, deflecting shots as we crashed through the trees, branches whipping at our faces. I had no idea where we were going, but she grabbed my hand and pulled me along, faster than I thought possible. "There," she yelled, pointing ahead. At first, I saw nothing, but then a sleek, silver ship shimmered into view like a mirage. It was about the size of a small car, its surface smooth and featureless. doors. Zara pressed her hand to the hull, and a door slid open with a soft hiss. "Get in," she shouted, practically shoving me inside before diving in after me. The interior was cramped, just enough room for 2 seats and a dizzying array of holographic controls. Zara's fingers flew across them, and the ship hummed to life beneath us. "Hang on," she said, gripping the controls. "This might get bumpy." That, as it turned out, was the understatement of the century. The ship shot straight up, G-forces pinning me to my seat. Through the view screen, I watched the trees shrink, then the neighborhood, and then the entire town. In seconds, we were breaking through the clouds, the sky turning to the inky black of space. "Holy crap," I wheezed, gripping the edges of my seat. "A little warning would have been nice." Zara flashed me an apologetic smile. "Sorry. Evasive maneuvers wait for no one. How are you holding up?" I took a second to assess. My heart was racing, my palms were sweaty, and I was pretty sure I'd left my stomach somewhere back on Earth. But I was alive, and in a spaceship with an alien princess. Princess? What the hell? Zara's eyes narrowed. "These primitive apes are under my protection. You don't want to see what happens when I get serious." The leader lunged, faster than any human could move, but Zara was quicker. She moved like liquid lightning, her blade slicing through the air. There was a flash, a scream, and then the creature was on the ground, clutching the smoking stump where his arm had been. I must have made some kind of noise, a gasp, a whimper, something, because suddenly all eyes turned to me. Zara's fierce warrior expression morphed into one of panic. "Ethan." The remaining 2 creatures exchanged glances, then grinned with predatory glee. Well, one of them hissed, "Looks like the princess has a pet." Then they rushed me. I'd love to say I did something brave, stood my ground, fought them off, but nope. I turned and ran for my life. I could hear them gaining, their footsteps unnaturally fast. I glanced over my shoulder and instantly regretted it. They were almost on me, their faces twisted in grotesque grins. Just when I thought it was all over, there was a flash of purple light. Zara appeared in front of me, her energy blades sparking to life. "Get down," she shouted. I didn't need to be told twice. I hit the ground, scraping my palms and knees on the pavement. Above me, I heard the sounds of combat, the hum of energy blades, the snarls of the creatures, and Zara's fierce battle cries. When I finally dared to look up, it was over. The creatures lay motionless on the ground, smoke rising from their bodies. Zara stood over them, breathing heavily, her blades slowly fading away. For a moment, neither of us spoke. I stared at her, my mind reeling. The shy exchange student was gone, replaced by this warrior princess? Was that what they had called her? Finally, Zara turned to me, her expression a mix of regret and concern. "I guess I owe you an explanation." I could only nod, too stunned to speak. She sighed, looking around nervously. "We should talk somewhere private. Maybe your place." I croaked out a weak sure and led her back to my house, my mind still spinning. My parents were out of town, which was probably for the best. This conversation wasn't one they needed to hear. Once inside, I collapsed on the couch, my legs giving out. Zara perched on the edge of an armchair, her glowing eyes scanning the room for threats. "So, I finally managed, my voice cracking. Princess, huh?" Zara winced, looking almost embarrassed. "Yeah, about that." She took a deep breath. "I'm Princess Zara Thal of Nexus Prime. Our planet's been torn apart by a civil war. My uncle leads the rebels, and he wants to overthrow the monarchy. My parents sent me here to Earth on a covert mission, to secure alliances and resources for our side." I blinked, trying to process everything. "And the whole high school exchange student thing?" She shrugged. "A cover. It was the easiest way to blend in." I couldn't help but laugh. "Yeah, because purple skin and glowing eyes don't stick out at all in high school." To my surprise, she giggled a real, normal laugh. "You'd be amazed how many people will believe it's just body paint and contacts." I shook my head, letting out a disbelieving chuckle. "This is insane. You're an alien princess, with assassins chasing you across the galaxy." Her expression darkened. "Those were sent by my uncle. He wants to eliminate me, the last heir to the throne." "Wow," I whispered, the full weight of the situation hitting me. "You could have died. Could have died." Zara leaned forward, her eyes filled with guilt. "I never wanted to put you in danger, Ethan. I had no idea they tracked me here." "Wait," I interrupted, my brain catching up. "So, you've been fighting off alien assassins and doing high school?" She nodded, looking almost bashful. "It hasn't been easy, but I've been trained for combat since childhood. Plus, Earth's gravity is lower than Nexus Prime's, so I have a bit of an advantage." I let out a low whistle, and here I thought passing calculus was hard. Zara smiled, her eyes softening. "You're taking this surprisingly well." I shrugged. "I mean, yeah, it's a lot to take in, but you saved my life, so that counts for something." She smiled brighter, and I swear the room seemed to glow with her. "Ethan, most people would be running for the hills right now. Well, I mumbled, feeling my face heat up. I've also had a crush on you for weeks. So, her eyes widened, and her skin flushed a deeper purple. Wait, even after finding out what I am, I rubbed the back of my neck, feeling awkward. Yeah, you're smart, funny, kind, and you can shoot energy beams from your hands. That's pretty awesome. For a moment, she just stared at me. Then, to my surprise, she burst out laughing. Not a polite laugh, a full-on, gasping for air laugh. I said, confused. Did I say something funny? Zara wiped away tears of laughter, shaking her head. Ethan, you are truly one of a kind. I've spent my whole life with people who only see my title, who treat me like I'm fragile. And here you are, worrying about whether I'll laugh at your crush. I couldn't help but join in her laughter. I'm okay, actually, I said, surprised to find it was true. This is insane but kind of awesome. Zara's smile widened. That's the spirit. Now, let's see if we can lose our mechanical friend, shall we? She pulled up a holographic display that showed 3 red dots rapidly approaching our position. With a series of gestures that looked more like she was conducting an orchestra than piloting a spaceship, Zara sent us into a series of twists and turns that would have made a roller coaster designer green with envy. I alternated between watching the pursuit on the display and staring out the view screen in awe as we zipped past satellites, narrowly avoided a field of space debris, and at one point skimmed the surface of the moon, close enough that I could have sworn I saw Neil Armstrong's footprints. So, I said, trying to keep my voice casual as we corkscrewed around the International Space Station. Do you do this often? Zara let out a laugh that was equal parts exhilaration and stress. What, engage in high-speed chases through your solar system? I try to keep it to a minimum. Bad for diplomatic relations, you know. A warning klaxon blared, and one of the displays flashed red. Zara swore in what I assumed was her native language. They're charging weapons. Hold on tight. She yanked hard on the controls, and suddenly we were plummeting back toward Earth. The heat of re-entry made the view screen glow orange, and I found myself muttering every prayer I could remember. Ethan, Zara said, her voice tight with concentration, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? I looked at her. This incredible being who had turned my world upside down, who had saved my life, taught me about the universe, and made me feel things I'd never felt before. The answer was obvious. Always, I said. She nodded, not taking her eyes off the controls. Good, because this next part is going to seem really stupid. Before I could ask what she meant, Zara slammed her hand down on a big red button. The ship shuddered, and then everything went silent. The engines cut out, the displays winked off, and we were left in total darkness. Zara? I said, my voice embarrassingly high. What just happened? Shh, she whispered. Emergency shutdown. We're in free fall. Completely dark to their sensors. With any luck, they'll think we burned up in the atmosphere. I wanted to point out all the ways this plan was absolutely insane, but given that we were currently plummeting toward Earth like a very high-tech meteor, I figured now wasn't the time. Seconds stretched into eternity as we fell through the atmosphere. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. Just when I was sure we were about to become a very interesting crater, Zara's hands flew over the controls. The ship roared back to life, inertial dampeners kicking in just in time to prevent us from becoming human and alien pancakes. We pulled up sharply, skimming the treetops of what looked like a dense forest. Did it work? I gasped, still not entirely convinced we weren't dead. Zara's eyes darted over the displays. I think so. No sign of pursuit. We must have lost them in the atmosphere. She let out a relieved laugh. I can't believe that actually worked. I stared at her. You mean you weren't sure it would? She had the grace to look a little sheepish. Well, there's always a first time for everything, right? Couldn't help it. The absurdity of the situation, the adrenaline crash, the sheer relief of being alive. It all hit me at once, and I burst out laughing. After a moment, Zara joined in, and soon we were both howling with slightly hysterical mirth. As our laughter died down, I became acutely aware of how close we were in the cramped cockpit. Zara's eyes met mine, and suddenly the air felt charged with something other than the aftermath of our escape. Ethan, she said softly, I'm so sorry for dragging you into all this. You could have died. I shook my head. Are you kidding, Zara? That was the most terrifying and amazing experience of my life. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Her expression softened, a smile playing at the corners of her lips. You are a very strange human, Ethan, says the alien princess, I retorted with a grin. And then, because apparently nearly dying had given me a burst of courage, I leaned in and kissed her. For a heart-stopping moment, I thought I'd made a terrible mistake, but then Zara was kissing me back, her lips impossibly soft, tasting faintly of ozone and stardust. When we finally pulled apart, we were both a little breathless. Wow, I eloquently stated. Zara's skin had flushed a deeper shade of purple, her eyes practically glowing. Indeed, she murmured. Then her expression turned turned serious. Ethan, you know this doesn't change anything. I'm still a princess with a war to fight. Earth still isn't safe for me. I nodded, reality crashing back down. I know. So what happens now? She bit her lip, thinking, I need to contact my parents, let them know what's happened, and she trailed off, looking uncertain for the first time since I'd met her. And I prompted. Zara took a deep breath. And I was thinking maybe you'd like to come with me to Nexus Prime. I blinked. Sure, I'd misheard. You want me to go to your planet? But what about school? My family? She shrugged. We have schools on Nexus Prime. Very good ones, actually. As for your family, well, I'm sure we could work something out. Intergalactic exchange program, perhaps. Her tone was light, but I could see the hope in her eyes. I thought about it. On one hand, it was insane, leaving Earth my whole life to go to an alien planet. On the other hand, adventure, discovery, a chance to see things no human had ever seen before. And Zara, a slow grin spread across my face. You know what? Why the hell not? It's not like my social life can get any weirder, right? Zara's answering smile was like a supernova. She threw her arms around me, nearly knocking us both out of our seats. Oh, Ethan, you have no idea how happy this makes me. Just wait until you see the crystal spires of Lumina or the floating gardens of Aoria and the libraries. Oh, you're going to love the libraries. As she rattled off a list of wonders that sounded like something out of a sci-fi novel, I couldn't help but marvel at how my life had changed. A few months ago, I was just an awkward kid trying to survive high school. Now, I was embarking on an intergalactic adventure with an alien princess. There would be challenges ahead, no doubt. A war to fight, a planet to save, and who knew what other cosmic dangers we'd face. But looking at Zara, her eyes shining with excitement as she plotted our course to the stars, I knew one thing for certain. The future was going to be anything but boring.